Constitution and Bill of Rights the way we do and have much less to offer to us, except, like it's going on in the United Nations meeting this week, they want to take away our guns. Why? They want to undermine our ability to be free, people, and this is what's going on. So it's like I have to bring up the whole issue with the opium trade, because today the drug war is one of the biggest frauds perpetrated on the American people once again, and it has, we, by our ignorance, have sat back and eaten the propaganda fed to us through our own tax dollars, through the ad counts and all these stupid commercials we see on TV, and they can continue to propagate their agenda. But the reason that there is a drug war is because the people behind what we're talking about lost their monopoly, and they decided the easiest way to get it back is to make all drugs illegal, and that's how they got their pride and joy back, the drug war. You know, why was Noriega taken out of Panama? It's because, you know, he was a renegade. He was making money in order to fly in there, you know, with the whole
$300,000 landing fees every time.
I'll tell you, you know, so it's like these people are so well established, and I think in our country they make $300 billion a year off the drugs. And you got to understand, people, another reason why drugs are illegal in this country is because it's part of the plot to take this country out.
Absolutely is. If it was legal, well, we could really stimulate our economy just through commercial use of hemp. But it would also take away
the black market,
money out of the black market.
Take away the black market.
Because we're getting a little off subject.
Well, yeah, I was going to cap what I said. But
well, just think about when you said $300 billion a year. Now, you know, we think of organized crime as being the mobsters, the mafiosos, you know, with the white hats and the black ties and all that. No mob, there is no organization in the world that can filter that kind of money without being caught, unless you're the bank itself. How are they going to launder it? Well, that's the whole thing. How can they launder it?
Why was Switzerland set up? You know,
exactly.
Geneva. Come on, these are the real questions, folks.
You know, why did Hitler just conquer Switzerland and take the gold out of there?
Well, I wanted to finish my whole thing about the Bilderbergs and they're operating the drug war, because the plan to take out the West, including our country, because the Council on Foreign Relations has a plan to obliterate our borders by 2010. And only when you understand what their agenda and the blueprint for their agenda is can you understand why our borders are wide open and why we have anywhere from 12 to 20 million illegal aliens in this country who have not taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You're going to start to get the picture here. Folks, the reason that the drug war exists is because drugs are more plentiful than when the drug war ever began, and they're cheaper, and the quality is higher. And it's sad, but it's true. And any young kid can get a joint easier than a six-pack any day of the week.
Yep, when we invaded Afghanistan, opium production increased 27%.
Tell it the way it is. Tell it the way it is. Let me just finish. I really want to finish my point here because I'm going to lose it. The point is that there's a two-pronged plan to take out our country, and that was to allow the drugs to come in so that we have no leadership for the future, and obviously that's happened. The heroin is cheaper and purer than ever. Cocaine's cheaper than ever and pure. Okay? And to stir up Islamic fundamentalists against Western culture, and they've done it, and this is something Tom and I, Buzzy, have talked about long time ago, and we've seen it continue to roll, and the people just continue to stay asleep to these ideas and not train to their drug policy. Slowly people are starting to wake up, and I just want to encourage you to educate yourself quick. Seek freedom while you can, and I'm not talking about the temporal one that comes through casting down the restraints of responsibility. I'm talking about the freedom that comes through carrying out injustice, and I'll tell you, nobody's paying and nobody's hiring, so good luck.
Nobody's praying either.
Nobody's praying. Well, there's some out there. That's God's got us chosen.
Woo. Yeah, you want to get drugs off the street? Simple. Legalize them. Regulate them. You know, you go in a package store.
Hard to handle for some people, but
you don't find cocaine in the package store. You don't find heroin in the package store. You find liquor in the package store, and you got to be at least 21 to buy that now.
Indeed.
And so who would make all the money off of those sales? But we're getting off subject here.
But we know what we're talking about, folks.
Absolutely. This, that is a big part of it, because that is a lot of money. That, like the CIA, for example, since the days of Vietnam, they've been using that to finance their covert operations.
Absolutely.
I mean, Congress is not going to appropriate funds all the time for all of these things. I mean, do you think really that Congress would fund children being experimented on for mind control? MK Ultra back in the 70s.
Yep.
George Bush Sr. was the director of CIA back then. He knew all about that, but do you think he could really go to Congress and say, yeah, we want to work on mind control? So
let's get back to the Council on Foreign Relations and GATT and NAFTA, okay? And the latest one, here's one I just read, a little short brief here. NAFTA on steroids. Get ready for this one, folks. And then why don't you give us a little synopsis of what all these great things have promised us and where they've gotten us, okay? Right out of the American Free Press, July 3rd, folks. On June 21st, Lou Dobbs, perhaps the only sensible news commentator on the cable news network channel, echoed recent reports by American Free Press blasting the so-called, check this out, Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, also known as SPP, negotiated by the Bush administration. Dobbs rightly characterized the SPP for what it is, NAFTA on steroids. President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it, said Dobbs, and he took this step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States. And as I said earlier, the Council on Foreign Relations, which is actually an outgrowth of the Royal Institute of Council over in Britain. It's an extension of the British government into our government, believe it or not. The Council on Foreign Relations, once it established itself, infiltrated the State Department, now runs our foreign policy. Now you understand why we're in so many domestic, or I should say, disputes outside of our country as well as within. But Council on Foreign Relations, what is their agenda? Once again, it's to obliterate our boundaries. And here again, you know, as we go on down the road with GATT, NAFTA, CAFTA, we're all getting the shafta. And now we have, you know, the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America. These are some things you got to look into and see what's generating out of these ideas, folks. Judge them by the fruits. Is it bringing us liberty? While we're sending our sons and daughters to fight for democracy, which we know, as we've said before on this program, is two wolves and a sheep and what's for dinner, and, you know, we're sending and losing our children, women, men, children over here. I mean, to me, someone who's 18 or 19 years old, that's a kid, you know, and they're getting involved in these wars that are proliferating for whatever reason that it's hard for us to determine, but, you know, surely it's not for promoting freedom, because while they're promoting freedom supposedly over there, they want to, once again, take away our rights to bear arms in this country. What else can you say about the Council on Foreign Relations?
Well, let's back up the history a little bit. You know, just after World War I, the League of Nations was formed to promote peace within the world, but the United States, under Woodrow Wilson, surprisingly, would not get involved in that. So what the next step was is they formed the Council on Foreign Relations, which is to push that world government agenda.
Yep.
You know, and you'd be really surprised to know that a big chunk of our administration, our elected representatives, and when I'm talking about the administration, I'm not talking just about George Bush and his immediate cabinet members, which most of them are Councils of Foreign Relations members.
Absolutely.
Even though George Bush is not, he's a member.
Our good old Nancy Johnson herself is a member.
Yep. We're talking about people like the head of the NSA, you know, Secretary of Treasury, the Attorney General, and I mean, just do the genealogy of our government, and you will find that many of these people in that positions have been to these Bilderberg meetings. They have talked about the world agendas to bring about, well, at this point, the next step is three economies.
The Trilateral Commission, the European Union, the Asian Union,
and the American Union.
North American Union, which has come right down the road. Right here, folks. The ultimate aim of the CFR is to create one world socialist system and make the U.S. an official part of it. Okay, Rear Admiral Chester Ward, former Council on Foreign Relations member for 16 years, said the most powerful clique in these elitist groups have one objective in common. They want to bring about the surrender of the sovereignty of the national independence of the United States. A second clique of international members in the Council on Foreign Relations comprises of Wall Street international bankers and their key agents. Primarily, they want the world banking monopoly from whatever power ends up in the control of a global government. Folks, it's hard-hitting ideas.
We want to thank you all for being here tonight.
Join us again soon.
We'll see you next week.